Hey everybody, final thoughts for the seventh continent. And wow, I mean, it's been almost 2 years to the day that I filmed my original run through for this back when I had a little tiny prototype and it was on Kickstarter. And as impressed as I was at the time, I'm even more blown away now. I mean, I have spent almost 15 hours in this world on the seventh continent, and I can confidently say at this point, this is the ultimate survival / exploration board game. Nothing else comes close to touching it in terms of its just raw, epic scope and ambition and design as well. Everything I said back 2 years ago is still equally applicable. In fact, actually, I went back and I watched my little run through, and I'm surprised how very, very little has changed since that. I mean, of course, there's been some minor graphic design changes and a few little rules tweaks, but you can watch that run through, and everything you saw there is still applicable for the final version, including everything I said in my original run through as well. Although, you get a lot more stuff now. Before, I just had that tiny little deck of about 100 cards in the prototype. Now, I've got over 1,000 cards here. This is such a huge world to explore. I mean, we're talking Vice City level. I mean, board games don't generally have this kind of notion, such an expansive, horizonless world that you can just pick a direction and just keep on going. And it just keeps on being more and more. It's interesting, actually, I went on Board Game Geek, and there's a guy, a fan of the game, who has actually mapped out the entirety of the seventh continent, which is, the main landmass, plus all the little satellite islands and, the interiors, the underground elements and stuff like that. And he's made a big, gigantic map of it. And the whole world, if I were to take all these cards and build the entire continent all at once, it would be something like, what was it? It was 2 by 3 meters, like 5 by 9 feet. Huge. I mean, that's just so incredibly epic. And like I said, Jen and I'm not quite sure. We played shy of 15, maybe around 13 hours or so on the first big adventure that comes with the game, the Voracious Goddess. So we put in that much time, and checking that map, we haven't even seen half of what this game has to offer. It's mind-boggling. Like I said, the raw, unbridled scope and ambition of this game is just phenomenal. And yeah, we're already, like I said, upwards of 15 hours in, and we're not even close to being done. I know what I still have to do to finish the Voracious Goddess, so I'm betting probably in another hour or two we will have finished that first curse. But if you've got the base game plus the expansions that were available in the original Kickstarter, after this, I've got 6 more curses to go through. And, those things will take me into wholly new areas of the continent that I have not seen in my original trekking. And also, more importantly, it will have me revisit areas that I think I know. But it's interesting. As we're exploring through this world, we are constantly coming across little things of, hey, what's that little altar right there? I don't know. We interact with it, we look at it, and it says, oh, well, you know what? If you have this one particular item, then you can look at card X and otherwise look at card Y. And we're constantly looking at the card Ys. And that's because when I start doing those other curses and investigating and exploring other stuff, that's when, even the areas I already know can open up and show me new stuff. That's incredible too. I mean, the level of replayability, not necessarily through the same curse. Once I finish the Voracious Goddess, I don't know if I'd want to do it again, even with new characters. And it's interesting. I mean, there's a ton of characters you can play that really change up the feel of the game and what you have to do to survive. But I don't know that I'd want to do Voracious Goddess again with new characters. But I got so many other curses to do. And the reason I'm doing this run through right now is because, once again, Seventh Continent is on Kickstarter right now. And folks, if you were ever interested in this game, but you said, you know what, I think I'm just going to wait till it's available at my local store, I'm strongly suggesting you go out and check out the Kickstarter page, because as far as I know, Seventh Continent will never be available at retail, or never in any significant numbers. I mean, people kept waiting, and instead of it going into broader distribution, the publisher, Serious Pulp, they're just running another Kickstarter to put out the second edition of this. And so, as far as I know, that's the only way you're ever going to get to play this game. So do not delay if you're kicking yourself, because, I mean, this is going to be one of the most popular games of the year for everybody who did back the original Kickstarter, and this is your chance to get in if you're interested. Now, should you back it? Well, again, you can go check out my original run-through, because like I said right up front, the game hasn't changed. It's still that same core loop of explore, 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 and get more and more and more tired as you transfer more cards from your action deck into your discard deck. You can see, I've paused in the middle of a game that Jen and I are playing right now. Jen is Mary Kingsley, and I am actually, interestingly, Victor Frankenstein. This was one of the stretch goals from the original Kickstarter campaign. And, we are deep in the jungle, in the heart of the seventh continent now, and we're not doing very well. We only have 2 more action cards in our deck, and you can see all this stuff. I mean, we're about to starve. We're about to, retire from exhaustion or die, but we're not too far away from a hunting ground, we know, and we're going to have to head back there and do a little bit of hunting to get our energy back, which means transferring stuff from the discard pile back to the draw pile so we can continue exploring, because that is really the core loop of this game. Explore, 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 get exhausted, go hunting, which means, and this is so crucial, because I think a lot of people I've noticed online make this mistake of not recognizing what the core loop of this game is, because as much as it's about exploration, it's also about survival. To survive in this world, you need to be crafting good, solid weapons and keep them on hand so that no matter what you run into in a hunt, because there are predators out there who might hunt you, and you have to be ready to take them down and then cook them up. So it's always important to keep on hand some solid weaponry and some fire-making skills, so after you hunt, you can transfer. I mean, we've transferred huge amounts of food all at once back so that we're rejuvenated, rested, and we can start exploring again. That's the loop. Explore, hunt, explore. And you've got to be ready for that going in, and it is a compelling and compulsive loop. There is no, this is actually, I should talk about stuff that's maybe, there was nothing really incorrect about my original run-through of the Final Thoughts, but I should talk about some stuff that has changed or that I have learned that wasn't in the core game. And one of them is, in the original run-through, I did not appreciate just how important hunting is. Hunting can be a grind. It can be a drag if you don't prepare for it. It's something you always have to have in the back of your mind. Right, we're going to eventually get tired, and if we don't get some sustenance, we might die. And this game is serious about that. This game has permadeath. We're a little bit nervous. Like I said, we've put in almost 15 hours into this Voracious Goddess curse, this adventure we're on. We're down to only 2 cards left. If we burn through these, then whenever we try to accomplish anything, we have to start drawing through these. And if we ever draw a curse, we permanently die. And all that progress will be lost. And that may sound huge and harshly unforgiving. Lose 15 hours of gameplay, start over from scratch? Again, if you recognize the overall flow of this game and you work hard at surviving, which again means you can't just, I love exploring. When you see a deep, dark cave and you say, let's go explore that cave, bear in mind, that cave could kill you. And not just a video game kill, I'll just reload my last save game and I won't go into the cave. No, this will kill you dead permanently. Don't go exploring off on some wild tangent unless you're sure that you are well rested. Maybe do some more hunting before you go off exploring, or stick around the area, the hunting ground, and just explore the areas you do know. These are, to me, one of the things I enjoy most about this is it's so thematic. The decisions you make in this game are driven by the same sort of thematic drives and tensions that you would feel if you were truly an explorer, hacking your way through undiscovered country and trying to stay alive, while of course ridding yourself of some curse that might destroy you if you cannot ultimately solve the riddle that you need to solve. This feels like real exploration because there are stakes. There is true danger in a way that I can't think of in other games because, like I said, 15 hours devoted into this, losing that, I can't think of him. Yeah, you know what? I mean, we might run afoul of, traps and tricks and monsters and whatever, and we might lose some of our health. We might lose some of our items that we've sculpted and crafted and are our favorite things in the world. We might even lose some allies we've picked up along the way, and that can be painful. But As long as we stay alive and keep exploring, that's what it's about. And that feels like a real palpable tension instead of a kind of fake game tension, which is what you normally feel in games. I'm invested in this game. I'm going to see it through. And that means, like I said, we're hungry. I've got to play smart. So that core loop, which again, I wasn't, after having played the game for 3 hours, I didn't quite get that, but I get that now. And I tell you about this because if you haven't played the game and you're thinking about going in, this is something you have to understand. The game can be very harsh and cruel if you don't put survival first and foremost in your mind. You think this, that's why I said right up front, this is an exploration survival game, but you might almost think of it as a survival exploration game because survival has to come first. And that's beautiful. That's quite unlike anything else I've seen. Although it's interesting, it's not all that uncommon in the video game sphere. There's this whole genre of survival video games out there now where it's all about just trying to stay alive in this world, not surviving but thriving, crafting cooler and better stuff so you can get more things, so you can craft cooler and better stuff so you can survive and switch from surviving to thriving. That's the core of this game too. There is really, and maybe I misspoke when I did my original run through because again, I'd only played a few hours. This is not a storytelling game. This is not a game where there's tons of people that you will meet through your adventures in these literally over 1,000 cards here, and you'll slowly uncover a series of clues that will tell you about a dark hidden past that will reveal what it is you have to do to defeat the final thing. This is not kind of standard board game or video game 101 tropey style storytelling. This game gives you a little bit of a story. Hey, you need to explore this place because you're suffering under a curse. If you can't solve the riddle of this curse, you'll die. That's the beginning and end of the story. The narrative that unfolds throughout your exploration of Seventh Continent is a story that you create for yourself. Like I said, there's a few little things in our 15 hours of game we've played so far. I could tell you, well, yeah, I remember this. I know a little bit about the history of this island. But the really interesting and important stories that Jen and I can tell each other from our experiences here is the time that Jen decided, I wasn't with her, but she's like, I'm going to go hunting. I'm really strong. I'm feeling good. I'm not going to wait for you to come over here and join me. I'm just going to go hunting myself. And she went and she ran into a bear. And then all of a sudden, everything stopped because we were so used to having some easy hunts. We'd had a string of successes, and then suddenly Jen was in a life or death struggle with this gigantic bear, and I couldn't save her, and it took everything she had, and she just barely eked out a solution, and we barely, it was an exciting drama, but it wasn't a drama because the developers of this game had specified, hey, let's work this all out so that this is the kind of, when they get over to this thing, this is what's going to happen in Chapter 2, and it'll be the big reveal that then leads into Chapter 3. No, this happened because of choices we made and the simulation that just kind of evolved through our actions. This is personal storytelling. This is player-led narrative instead of designer-led narrative, and I find it very, very compelling. It is something you have to know, though, because I know some people have been disappointed by this game because they've gone in expecting some big, epic, elaborate story, and they're like, there's no story here at all. That's true. There's no story here except for the story that you create. And I think that's a stronger story. But, the different strokes for different folks. So that's something you got to know going in. That's certainly something I wasn't aware. I expected this was just going to follow the standard narrative cliches you see in adventure games, video and board, but it doesn't do that. It lets me and Jen create our own memorable stories, and we have a few. I can't tell you about them because they'd be full of spoilers, and you should really experience them for yourself. But that's a really, really wonderful element of this game. Here's another thing I was unaware of when I did this run through, because the original run through, the prototype was just like a very tiny little part of the Seventh Continent. And now I've seen, I've only seen less than half of the continent, but even still, I have a respect for the scope and grandeur of this place. And now that I've seen this, a huge part of gameplay, which I didn't know going in, but it's something that is important to know, because again, until you learn this lesson, the game can be very harsh and very unforgiving. As much as this game is about energy management, trying to ensure you don't die, and resource management, trying to build the right items that will help you survive and explore more efficiently, this game is about map management as well. I talked and demoed just how cool the save system was when I did my original run through, and it's amazing. I am absolutely bonkers amazed that when Jen and I decide we're done for the day, it literally takes me less than a minute to pack it all up, put it in the box, and put it on the shelf. And then next time we want to play, it literally takes me less than a minute. I've timed myself. I can get this game set up and ready to go in less than a minute and pick right up where we left off. That is an astounding board game design feat. You know, I mean, for video games, it's not that big a deal, but for board games, that's a big, big deal. I'm amazed by that. But here's the thing. Every time you decide, okay, let's pack it up for the night, what happens is all the area that you've explored kind of goes into what is called the past. And all you keep is the current space that you're on. And then when you start the next time, you're on this space, and you have to kind of re-explore the area you're in. Now, that can be tricky because right now, I mean, let's see, in this little part of the jungle, we've got 1, 2, 3 places we know about and a few places we could explore. It takes time and energy, i.e. spending cards, to explore through these areas. Once we have revealed all these, once I've revealed whatever this thing was, if I wanted to travel east, and let's see, what is it? It's card 264. Let me find card 264. You know, once I have revealed, oh, well, let's just say, a forest fire, and I have dealt with this. Oh my gosh, I ran across a forest fire. I have to deal with it. If I do successfully deal with it, I then get to find, oh look, more jungle with some interesting elements in it. And I put it here, and and then hey look, there's another unknown event further east. And so I could continue. So now I could spend energy to move here, and then I could spend energy to keep going east. So over time, you build up this area of everything you know where you are in the world. And the interesting thing is, I mentioned this in the original run-through, you can effectively fast travel every place, or almost every place that you've already been. So once I'm over here, if I want to get back over here really quick, instead of having to spend energy to move here, and then energy to move here, I can just say, oh, you know what? I want to move to any place that is connected, via a contiguous series of cards. I could just very instantly move over here, and it would only cost me, from here, I had to spend energy to reveal the thing, then I had to spend energy to move in, and then I have to spend energy to reveal, and then move in. But then once I'm all the way over here, if I want to just zip back over here, it only costs me energy just to start from here and then zoom, go wherever I want. That's a very, very powerful tool. So as you build up a bigger and bigger map of all the places you know, you can get around very quickly if you need to ever backtrack. But then what happens is eventually you decide, okay, we're just going to save it for the night. Everything gets collapsed down, and then you've got just the one area you're in. Then you've got to start spending energy to once again, everything's gone, and now we're just here. And even though we know what's to the north, because we've seen it, we know there's the watering hole over here, or there's the scary plant monster, or whatever it might be. Now we have to spend time and energy again coming out here, revealing it, and then revealing the next thing and the next thing. And so that can be very expensive. It is a cost that is built into the game. And so that's why I started all this by saying how important it is to understand map management. You have to manage this map and the way it grows and the way it shrinks and contracts. The same way you've got to manage your inventory and your energy and your character and all of that. And while some people I think would be very, very annoyed by it, I actually love it because thematically what happens in the world when you decide to save your game and you collapse it all down, and then the next time you play, you've got all these new events that you have to travel through again and spend more energy to get through. What that represents is the game actually says time is passing. We say, okay, hey, we're done playing for the night. Save it all down, put it up the next day. It's because it's the next day in the world. And the thing is, as we start exploring and we have new, different events, the world has changed because time has moved forward. It's changed for thematic reasons. And I mentioned this in the original run-through. A lot of times, I'm not saying this is the case for card 220, but when you look to card 220, there might be 2 or 3 card 220s in this thing. And when you find 220, you'll find version A of it. But oh, there's a B and a C version of 220. There are other things that could happen in this space. We've only seen one potential thing here. We need to see what else is going to happen. So how do you see that? You wait. You make time, move forward by saving your game, collapsing everything down, and then the 220 you have seen, again, I'm not saying 220 is a multi-use, but this is a very common thing. This goes into the past, and then the next time you travel, after you save and you travel to 220 again, you come over here and you get a different 220. So the world grows and changes and evolves, not just because you find a button you have to press to open a door somewhere else, those kind of standard video gamey things. The world evolves because time passes. And that is amazing to me. And so I look at every time we save our game, we work very, very hard to time it appropriately. We won't save our game until we feel like, we've gotten everything that's out of this particular area. The continent itself is broken into a bunch of distinct environments. Hey, over here's some snowy mountains. Over here's some jungle. Over here's some desert, whatever. Over here is a satellite island. They're all kind of little discrete things with certain areas that join and connect them all together. And we will explore till, okay, we think we've gotten everything there is to get out of here. But oh my gosh, there are other things. We found an abandoned hut. And we said, okay, and there were two different versions of it. We looked at the one that, okay, well, there's nothing here. But if we see the other one, what will change? Will the person who lived in his hut, will they come back? We should save our game and find out so we can explore. That means we have new, interesting tactical decisions. This would be a great place to save our game. Let's save our game right here at this hut. Because then the next time we load up, the next time we play, we'll get to draw the other card. And it will mean that the person who lives or who built this hut or whatever might live in this hut will be here and we'll get to experience that. That again feels thematic. We want to see who lives here. Let's wait. Let's sleep on it. And we physically, as human beings, as players, go and sleep. The next day we come back and we load up our save game. Oh my gosh, it's changed. That connection between my real world passage of time and the game's passage of time is awesome. And so every time I see people complain, oh man, I have to save my game and I have to re-explore the place I've already seen. Yeah. That's a cool, exciting thing. That's a great opportunity for adventure. Because another thing too, a lot of these cards that you reveal, a lot of them are completely innocuous. They're no big deal. You just get past them really quick. Some of them are dangerous. Some of them are really good. So getting to travel because, hey, it's 2 days later. The world has changed. There's new opportunities. There's new setbacks. The world has changed. It's amazing. I absolutely love it. But I just preface all this because, one, I didn't talk about how amazing it was because I didn't appreciate it when I did my original run-through. But it's such a huge part of the game. And it becomes a cornerstone to how you strategically explore this world. The decision of when to save and when to keep pushing yourself harder. The same way you push your people harder and you go night after night, day after day without saving your game, i.e. sleeping, is reflective in the fact that, okay, we'll just keep pushing ourselves harder and eventually we have to save. Somewhere we have to save. The world around us is going to reset and that'll give us new opportunities. It also means we have to spend more energy. And that dovetails back to the core loop of this game. Explore, rejuvenate yourself through hunting, and then explore again. So these are all strategic decisions you have to make that, again, fit the reality, the theme of exploring the lost seventh continent. I think it's brilliant, but again, if you don't realize that, if you haven't quite grokked it, I mention all this because it's just as a warning for players, don't make the same mistake some people do and get really, really frustrated. It shouldn't be a frustration. It should be a sense of excitement if you play your cards right. Literally, singing how it's a card game. Oh, what else? Yeah, map management is such a big thing. Oh, here's another thing. I did not know this 2 years ago when I did the run-through. I have been surprised in my almost 15 hours of play just how many escape room style puzzles there are in here. It seems like we can't go an hour or two without running across some kind of card that says, oh, look, it's a little puzzle. And this would feel like it's right out of Unlock or Deckscape or Exit the Game. Those. I mean, I've done recent run-throughs for the kind of explosion of escape room in your home style games. A lot of those elements find their way into here too. And Jen loves them. Every time, oh, give me that, I want to figure it out. And she'll start, doing stuff. And I mean, heck, there was one we actually took a picture of the card and took it into Photoshop and did some copy and paste stuff to try and, it's really, really cool. Those are fun little interludes that break up the core loop. All of a sudden, you find yourself having to figure out some kind of riddle or some kind of puzzle. Those are so pleasant. Every time they come up, they just kind of, they break up the rhythm of the game and give you something new to think about. They're really great, and I'm so happy a new one pops up. They're really, really cool too. It's just an amazing game. Oh, another thing. This is, I mentioned there weren't very many changes between the original I did and the new one. There is one It's a subtle change, but it's huge if you want to play this multiplayer. It doesn't matter as a co-op game, but as a multiplayer game, it's a huge change. And it is this. There is now, I was just talking about how travel works via shortcuts. Where did all those cards? Here's my, I'm not saying this is the right, but let's just say, here's the jungle I've got right now, and I've kind of explored off over here. Say Jen and I are here, and we can see, oh, look, there's, or actually, let's just say something like this. I'm gonna have to reset these all back up because this is the real game we're playing. So, we're at an intersection. We could go east or west. And, it's an interesting decision to whether you're going to split the party up, whether you always stick together, because there's a lot of reasons to stick together. You can collaborate. Whenever you have to interact with something in the world, or you have to go for a hunt, or you have to build something, you can collaborate. And depending on what skills each individual player has, that can make things easier. And if you're traveling together, you both get to, because while we have a communal group of energy. So if we're traveling together, we're both moving, spending the same amount of energy. So that's a big deal. But Jen and I have had so much fun splitting up. When we're coming into a new area and we want to cover as much space as possible, because there's another resource in this game. There's the energy that is spent, but there's, for us, as far as Jen and I are concerned, another resource is time. Our time. How much time are we going to spend exploring? We like to split up and cover more ground. And so we will often split up. She'll go off to the east, I'll go off to the west, whatever. We'll deal with, and we'll keep on splitting up. Eventually we'll get to the point where, okay, wow, this is hard. I need your help because you've got that club and you could help me smash open this thing. Because it would be really, I would have to spend a lot of energy smashing this open. If you come cover, so Jen, she went over here and I came over here, and eventually we're really far away from each other, right? And then Jen finds a thing that needs a test of strength. And I have a club that can help with test of strength or something like that. And so we say, no problem, honey. I'll get right back to you. Because remember, hey, here I am. It says it costs me 2 energy to move. Now remember, when you move, you can move as far, you spend the cost, but you don't spend for every single card you go through. You spend the cost for where you are, which is different. I think in the original playthrough I did, you spent the cost for where you wanted to move to. Now you spend from where you're taking off. It's a subtle thing, but it can make a difference. But anyway, you spend where you are, and then that means you can travel as far as you want through any explored areas that you've already seen. Here's the beauty part. If you're traveling to where your teammate is, you get a travel discount. It costs 1 less. So Jen's way out here, and she wants to travel. If she wants to travel over here, it costs her 2 energy. But if she wants to travel to me because she's traveling to me, it only costs her 1 energy. And that may not sound like much, but in a game where survival comes down, and you can see Jen and I, we're low on energy. We're about to start to have to dip into our reserves, which could kill us. Having to spend 1 card instead of 2 to be able to travel together, that's a big deal. And it actively supports splitting up so that we can more efficiently manage our most important resource, which is not energy, is not uses of our items, it's our real world time. So we can split up, have adventures off on our own, and then whenever we need to come back together, it's cheap and quick and easy to come back together. There's other reasons too. In the original run through, paranoia was actually fairly easy to shake. Now you have to travel farther away from your teammates before you shake your distrust of them. So when you get paranoid, which is probably one of the most common states, that maladies that can afflict you, if you just, I don't trust my teammate anymore, splitting up and getting some alone time can really help with that. And then you can quick travel back and forth. Also, another thing, if, say, we split up, we were here and we're going to split up and Jen's going to go off this way, I'm going to go off that way. If we light a fire right here, that same travel discount, if we put a campfire, we get a discount to travel back to the campfire. And so this is cool. Jen could travel over here, and then she travels back, she gets a discount, and then I could travel, and I get a discount for traveling to her and the fire. So this is an interesting thing too. Even if we're not planning to split up, but we know, you know what? We could go off east. It's probably a dead end. We know we have to go west, but we want to see what's off to the east. I'll go by myself, honey, and I'll move, and Jen can stay behind and be an anchor. Because after I come over here to the dead end, I won't have to spend as much energy coming back. I can just zip right back to her. It's awesome. It's lovely. It's a simple little thing, but it has so opened up the game for multiplayer gameplay. And again, it may not sound like just saving 1 energy on a travel is that big a deal, but it's huge. It really makes a big, big difference. So that's awesome too. I'm so happy with this game. We've had so much fun. And like I said, we've hardly scratched the surface. That said, there are some things that could be better. There are a few little things that kind of bug me. A big one is It's all right, but I mean, there is roll to resolve. You decide what you're going to do, and the thing is, you have to commit your items before. If we're going to try and climb this waterfall, there's a waterfall and it's really slick, so it's going to be a really tough climb challenge. And so we have to draw so many cards, we need so many successes. This is going to be tough. I'm not saying this exists in the game, I'm just making something up. But we know we have to get up to the top and we want to see what's up there. So we can decide before we declare how many cards we're going to draw, whether we draw 3 or 4 or 5 to get more and more successes, because you never know exactly how many successes you get on a card. We have to decide to commit the items, because maybe Jen's got some rope, and rope can help with climbing. Should she use it before or after? Based on how many, you have to make that decision. And then what will often happen is, oh, you know what, we'll use the rope, we'll draw 4 times, that should be safe. And then we draw the cards and, oh, you know what? We didn't need to use the rope at all. The 4 cards were fine by themselves, and we way overkilled and we wasted a charge. It's fine. That's a really common thing in board games. This whole, hey, you're going to have to roll to resolve something, commit all your resources, and you might be wasting them. You can't tell. It's okay, it creates more tension and all that, but personally, I would have loved to see something like, you know what, every time when you're going to climb that waterfall, you have a choice. You choose how many cards you're going to commit to it, how much energy you're going to spend, and you choose whether you're going to commit your item, the rope, the climbing rope you've got, before or after. If you commit before you start the climb, you will get the full benefit of that rope. But if you decide, you know what, we're probably fine, drawing 4 cards will be fine, let's save that rope because we don't have many more uses of it yet, we might need it for something else, let's save it. And then you climb and you fail, hey, I think it would be an awesome little thing if after you failed, you could still retroactively apply, say, the rope, but you only get half the benefit of it. A little thing like that. I've seen this exact system in other games. It just creates one more decision you can make, and it becomes much more about risk mitigation. A little thing like that would be nice. Another thing that kind of bugs me a little bit. So all the characters have unique abilities. They have a unique starting power, and whichever character you play puts more special skill cards in the deck that you may or may not draw. Those are very, very cool. This is not a surprise. I mean, as soon as you open the game, the first thing you see about Victor Frankenstein, one of his starting skill cards is Mad Scientist, which is a very, very cool card. But he can only be a Mad Scientist if he's got the Mad Scientist card in his hand. As you can see, the deck of cards gets very thick. That can be a hard thing to have. And it really feels kind of weird to me that, oh, he just stops being a Mad Scientist until he finds that card. What I'm saying is, I would have loved to see every character have some skill that makes them special. Something that no matter what, they're always good at it. I mean, there's a character who's good at botany, but they're only good at botany if they've got the right cards in their hand. They should be good at botany no matter what. It's a little tweak. I would have liked to see something like that. It's not that big a deal, really, but just like some kind of really cool permanent bonus, because Victor is a very cool, unique character if you've got his cards in your hand. If you don't, he could be very generic and just like every other character. It's a missed opportunity. It's a little thing. I'm not complaining, but I know I am complaining, I guess. I'll live with it, though. It's a small thing. I can think, though, of one big complaint I've got. And it comes back to what I was talking about earlier, that this game does feature sometimes almost escape room-esque elements to the game. And most of the time, we've loved them. But occasionally, they take the form of very clever and very vague riddles. Sometimes you'll just be trucking along, you'll find something that, a scrap of paper, and you'll read it, and it's like some note from some old explorer, and you can see, you know what, this is telling me something important, but it's being very vague and riddly, and I need to figure this out. And those are cool. I like them in theory. And don't get me wrong, I love them in escape rooms. I mean, I've talked about how much Jen and I have been loving Escape Room in a Box. But here's the thing. In a regular escape room game, which is designed to last about an hour, if you get a riddle and you think, okay, I think I understand what this riddle is, and that means we should do X. And then you try X and it turns out, oh, I got the riddle wrong. I should have done Y. Well, you know what? You're out 5 minutes. Or maybe your score drops or something like that. It's not that big a deal. In this game, if you look at this riddle and you think you figured it out, and then you say, okay, well, that means our plan of action should be X. Instead of losing 5 minutes, if you're wrong, you could lose like 2 hours. That kind of irks me a little bit because, like I was saying earlier, more than our energy, more than our items, more than anything else, for me and Jen, our number one resource is our real world time. And misreading a clue, or misunderstanding a riddle that was purposely trying to mislead. Because the clues, strictly speaking, if you understand, if you read between the lines, if you make those intuitive leaps, you should be able to make the right choice. But they're often designed to say, oh, well, here's this other way you could interpret it. And that seems valid too. And if you do that one, you could go off to the far end of Timbuktu, and you're like, okay, we got all the way here and there's nothing. Oh my God. We should have reversed the colors. If we had reversed the colors, we would have known we should have gone south 2 instead of east 10 or whatever. And like, oh my God, we came all the way out here and now we got to go all the way back. Ah! I mentioned this because this in the 13 or so hours we've played so far, this has happened to us twice now. And on one level, I want to say, you know what? It's not the game's fault. It's our fault. Because once we eventually figure out, oh, south instead of east, red instead of blue, up instead of down, sunrise instead of sunset, whatever. Whatever we misinterpreted and we didn't quite get it, and then we say, okay, if we thought about this, the extra little bit of information was there. And so I want to kick myself, or me and Jenna, we want to kick ourselves for it, but still, we suffered 2 hours or an hour or two lost. And now by the time we get all the way back, we'll be almost dead. And we'll have to spend time, again, not game time, but our real time hunting. And the loop of explore, hunt, explore is cool and satisfying because we feel like we're in control. The loop of explore, figure out puzzle, wrong turn, dead end, retrace your steps back to where you were, now hunt, that does not feel like we're in control, and it has created very, very frustrating moments for us. Hugely frustrating. And now, in part, that's a testament to how good this game is. We're so deeply involved and enmeshed in the emerging narrative. And to be fair, we now have some very interesting stories to tell about how we misinterpreted these riddles and these clues, and it led us on these wild goose chases, and here's what happened along the way. But still, you know what? Sometimes the best stories you can tell about your own personal life, you were not having a good time. They become great stories to tell after the fact, but at the time you were miserable. And this has happened to us a couple times in the game. I won't say red herrings because, again, we can see in both of these two riddles cases. And looking, I haven't done any of the other clues, but I've looked at the intro, and these clues, these other curses, I should say, that we can go and have adventures on, they have kind of vague clues. And I think, oh my gosh, are there more of these? Are there more of these riddles that if we choose X instead of Y, we'll burn an hour that we can never get back of our own personal life? That's a minor thing. And again, I don't know if it's the game's fault or if it's our fault. I feel like we should blame us because the clue was there. If we'd been a little bit more careful, we could have gotten it. But we didn't. And the end result was we didn't suffer a 5-minute setback or, just, oh yeah, well, because you misinterpreted the clue, lose 10 energy and now you got a problem to solve. No, we lost an hour or two. And that is hard. And I end up feeling frustrated and blaming the clue, blaming the game design for why did you let this happen to me? You as the designer, you knew this could happen. And I can't help but think you're like, again, it creates an interesting story, but we were not having a good time at the time. And for such a long game to spend, don't get me wrong, on the way out there, we thought we understood it, we were having great adventures, but then when we get there, we realized, we should have taken a left turn at Albuquerque, and now we got to go all the way back to Albuquerque. It can be, depths of level frustrating, the likes of which, because then it comes back to the whole, we've saved our game out here, now we've got to re-explore all the things. And while we can do it quickly, we've gotten to the point where we're retracing our steps, we can burn through reveal, make a choice, move, reveal, make a choice, move, reveal, make a choice, move. While it took us, an hour to go all the way out there, we can get back in, 15 or 20 minutes. Because now we have to retrace our steps and find new things. And hey, maybe new cool things will happen too. But that loop feels so much better when it was our choice instead of our mistake and it was pushed on us. So that's been frustrating. I want to say this isn't the game's fault and it's our fault as well, because here's another interesting thing. This is going to be unique to me and Jen. I'm a video game reviewer, right? I review board games, or not video games, board games. I review board games for a living. I got to play tons of games. Every week I play 3 or 4 new games, and we play them, and I got to film them. I've got this constant loop. A game like Seventh Continent creates a real problem for me because to really be able to talk at length and understand the breadth and scope of it, I got to spend a lot of time on it, more time than I normally spend on games. And that means in a game like Seventh Continent, Jen and I, we're kind of racing through it. We're trying to play as fast as we can because I feel like I gotta finish this Voracious Goddess. I gotta see a curse all the way through so I can talk about the full experience. And now here's the thing. Essen is coming up. I got a lot of games I gotta play and film in the next few weeks. I don't have any more time, Seventh Continent, so I put the brakes on. We're going to put this away for a while. I figure 15 hours is enough time for me to talk about it. But anyway, I say all this because it's not Seventh Continent's fault that we are racing at breakneck speed. It's not unreasonable for us to conclude that the reason we had such epic fails on interpreting the riddles that led us down wild goose chases was as much as anything else because we were in a hurry. We went for what seemed like the easy answer instead of digging a little deeper, and if we just thought about it more, we could have made it. But we're racing to try and consume as much of this game as possible so I can give a better report to you. After the second time this happened to us, Jen and I said, you know what, we're done racing through this game. This game is a fine wine that should be savored. You should not binge play Seventh Continent. I actually talked about this when I did my final thoughts for what was it? This War of Mine. The exact same thing is true there. That's a game where you could put 20 hours into a campaign, and you shouldn't just try to do it all in 1 or 2 sittings. You should just play, because this game has such a beautiful save system. And again, getting back to what I said earlier, if you work with the save system and pick the right time to do it, it's a phenomenal tool to help you get control over the world you're in. And but we're racing so fast that we're making mistakes. And I think we're getting more frustrated than we would be. So I'm going to slow down. We're going to get to the point where maybe we just play this once a week for an hour. I like a favorite TV show. Hey, we got a new episode of West Wing. Let's sit down and enjoy it for an hour and then wait excitedly for next week. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the Netflix file. Let's give you the entire full season of 13 episodes so you can watch them all in one 13-hour sitting. I think entertainment is best served slowly over time so you can reflect on what you did. You can build anticipation for the next time you play. I mention all of this because I think Seventh Continent is a game that can be susceptible to burnout. Because here's the thing, Jen and I, after our 13 hours, we're starting to feel a bit burned out. In part because we got burned by those 2 riddles that happened fairly back to back, and they kind of frustrated us. And that's why I think it's so important for a game like this to put it on the shelf for a week or 2 and then rebuild excitement, rebuild enthusiasm. So when you come back in, it's like, yeah, I can't wait to get back in the world and start exploring again and look at problems with fresh eyes and stuff. If you decide, yeah, you know what, I should be able to get through the Voracious Goddess in 15 hours, we're going to spend this weekend doing it. We'll play 8 hours on Saturday and we'll spend 7 hours on Sunday. It's going to be amazing. I think you're doing the game a disservice if you play it that way, and that's kind of how Jen and I have been playing it. So I think my biggest complaint, it's not you, Seventh Continent, it's us. We're going to play you better. We're going to play you smarter. And I only tell this story so that for folks out there who are thinking about getting, or who have already gotten it but haven't gotten to where we are yet, again, my number one core advice, my main elements of advice are, remember, this is a survival game first and exploration game second. Don't get so wrapped up in exploring that you end up dying of starvation because you forgot the core loop of explore, hunt, explore. If you stay on top of that and you keep good fresh weapons and a way to keep fire at all times, the game gives you the tools to do it. And you might think, we're done hunting. I can let this weapon go so I can make room for this thing that'll help me explore really well. You might be making a mistake. Remember, survive first, explore second. And little sips, take it as episodic. Don't try to take it as one big epic thing where you just play for 4 or 5 or 6 hours nonstop. Sit back and take your time, and enjoy the journey. Because this game it's definitely not about the destination. We're eventually going to solve this curse, and I suspect we're going to see a card that says, congratulations, you've done it. Now, here, try another curse. And then the whole world resets. We start over from scratch. It's about the journey. It's about the adventures and the stories that we can tell that happen because of the decisions we made along the way. And you shouldn't rush that. You should take it slow and easy and savor it. And that is my plan moving forward. That is what I intend to do with the 7th continent. I want to savor it because, oh my gosh, look, there's so much. I didn't even talk about, heck, I was just talking about, okay, I should talk about these expansions, right? There's a ton of expansions, and you have the choice whether to get them or not. If you're thinking of getting the game, get them all. Fear the Devourers adds these very, very cool little minis that pop up every once in a while. And the thing that's awesome about them is they're very, very dangerous to fight, although they're a great source of meat if you kill them, if you're starving, and they can pop up anywhere because, you know, they're like the worms from Tremors, and they can burrow underground. So they're very, very clever that way. But the thing I love about them is, yeah, you can fight them and eat them, but almost in every case you run into them, there are other ways to deal with them as well, depending on what type of character you are. And it makes me feel so clever to, instead of just always fight, to find other things to do. I love them. Facing the Elements. This is very cool. It comes with these things. There's 5 different, I mean, basically they're storm clouds for all intents and purposes. Like this thunderstorm that can hit you, or this snowstorm. Now, it's brilliant in that the events, I mean, this adds new event cards that go into all the decks. So that when you're in the snowy region of the island, hey, you know what? There's a new event. You could get hit by a snowstorm, and that means you put it here. And it changes the rules for how the world works. If you move into this place, if you move into the eye of the storm, that has certain impacts. And while this snowstorm is active, visibility is obscured everywhere, and it becomes easier to sneak around if you're trying to sneak up on prey, if you're thinking about hunting. But you know what? I want this snowstorm to go away because it's really causing us trouble. We don't need to sneak. We need to do other stuff. That might be a good time to save your game, because when you save your game and you collapse the whole world down, that goes away too. Look, we need to wait out this thunderstorm, which is making it very dangerous to move. Because in a thunderstorm, if you move too far, you can really get hit hard. So you have to slow down and not take advantage of fast movement. That's what a thunderstorm does. If you think, okay, in our situation, we're going to do a lot of back and forth traveling, maybe we should save our game right now, because, like in the real world, you could try to go out and have your adventure in a thunderstorm, or you can bed down for the night and wait, because the next day, the thunderstorm is gone. Again, I get back to what I was saying before. It's brilliant how thematic these gameplay mechanisms are. It's absolutely astounding to me. And then you've got 3 different adventures. And, this is one thing. I know a lot of people ask, hey, if I get the game and I've got all these things, should I put all the cards from these into the main, or should I leave them until I do these adventures later? I strongly recommend you take all the cards out of here and put them in, because it would be a real shame for you to play through a couple of curses and not have the ability to have weather events until you eventually add the weather. You should add all of these. 3 of these, if I recall correctly, add new curses, but they all add new opportunities to have encounters and items you can build and events that will happen to you, and you should introduce those things as fast as possible for more variety and surprise to the game. So definitely, you get this game, first thing you do, put them all in, and then it just makes the adventures you'll have that much richer and more cool and satisfying. Oh, another thing, by the way, did I mention right up front, I've been talking forever now. This is on Kickstarter right now. You can hit the I to go check out the Kickstarter page. I'm so excited for 2 reasons. If, like me, you've got the original first edition with all the goodies, and oh my gosh, there's so many goodies. Like I said, all these expansions are great. I love these bone dice. You got the bag. The game comes with regular D6s, but instead you can have these bone dice. Go check them out on the Kickstarter page. They're awesome. I love rolling the bones. This is a 6. This is very important. Don't forget, I've got 6 uses of my pirate hat that makes me feel like a pirate and helps me fight and dig and sail, in case I ever need to use that. So I've got 6 uses of that tricorn hat. I'm very, very fond of it. I'm Victor Frankenstein, walking around with a pirate hat. And I've got some spectacles, and I've got a club. And man, I have definitely squashed some of these bugs with that club. That's a crazy unique story that's come out of my game that probably won't happen to you and yours. You'll get your own unique fun stories. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. The other cool stuff. So these are neat. The bone dice are neat. This is neat, although I have to admit I haven't used it, because this is an opportunity for you to make notes as you play. And as you explore more stuff, you can write down, hey, yeah, over in this corner of the jungle, I found a strange rune, a glyph on the ground. I didn't know what it meant. I should write down that in card 167, there's a blue glyph on the ground, because maybe that'll be important in some future curse. And I'm on the other side of the world, and where did I find that? All right, I made a note of it. So this is really cool. I love it. I love the tactile feel of it, but I have to admit we're being cheap, and every time we explore an area, once we've got the whole thing out, we just take a picture. And so I've got a travel log on my phone of the third, or the almost 50% of the island I've seen. I've just been taking pictures as I go, but I really should have been doing it old school with this awesome manual. Let's see, what else? Oh, yeah, the bone dice are cool. All of these things are excellent. Yeah, the minis for your characters, as opposed, hey, I could have Frankenstein, the standee, or I could have Frankenstein, the very, very little tiny mini, or, and I don't know why they did this, or I could have Frankenstein, the little token that lies flat. I've got 3 ways to represent myself in the game. Personally, I like the standees because I like seeing the art. Jen likes the minis, so much so, we're not mini painters, but she took some Sharpies to kind of use a Sharpie to paint her own character. She actually did a really good job on this flame. But anyway, the neat little miniatures are very, very nice. I've seen pictures of people painting them online. They look phenomenal, even though they're about half the size of a regular games mini. Neat, neat, neat stuff. But anyway, I'm sorry. On the Kickstarter, there's 2 more adventures they're adding. And, not surprising, in a game with over 1,000 cards, there were some typos, there were some mistakes, and they've been caught. And for people who have the first edition of the game, if you go to the Kickstarter, you might think, oh, I don't need to go to the Kickstarter page. I've got everything. 2 new adventures, if I recall correctly. I might be wrong about that. Check the Kickstarter page. And even if you don't want the new stuff, they are, for the people who backed the first level, they are releasing a updated card pack, so you can get, for the typos they made, the little mistakes they made on them, you can replace the errata cards with new cards. So that's being made available as well on the Kickstarter page for backers of the original. Oh man, I don't know how long I've talked now, but I feel like I could go for another hour. There's so much here that I enjoy so much. And yeah, like I said, just don't burn out on it. Savor it. Let it live with you for a while. Same thing is true for this war of mine. Use that save system. Don't be frustrated that it hampers you. Use it as a tool to give yourself more opportunities. And remember, survival first, exploration second. If you can do all that, I think you'll have an amazing time with the 7th Continent. And that's it, folks. Thanks very much for watching, and have a very, very nice day. Talk to you later. So long.